Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Political Living Room. I am Karen. This is my living room, and we are going to talk about some New York City politics. Drink them if you got them. I got my coffee. Love coffee. I drink a lot of coffee. I drink a lot of coffee on the subway because I ride the subway a lot. I am a working musician. I teach and I gig. So I am on the subway going to and from classes. I am on the subway going to and from gigs all the time. There are days when I will ride 5 trains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Spend a lot of time on the subway. What we're looking at here is now, unfortunately, a common sight on the New York City subway. I have been in New York City since 1984 when I started college. I grew up in the New York City suburbs in Westchester, so this kind of thing was not part of my experience. And also growing up in Westchester, subways were for poor people or what Daddy had to ride when the car broke down and was very, very pissed off about that. When I came to college to major in acting, I realized very quickly that I might, in fact, be one of these poor people and would have to ride the subway because my father was not there to drive me around. Yes, I was a little bit of a princess. Anyway, this is common now. When I started school, you might see, and also into the late 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. And there have been fluctuations in how likely you were to see a very down and out homeless person, such as this individual here. But generally, this was rare. Now it is not rare. When I first started riding the subway regularly, I would say that was probably around 88 when I graduated and started looking for jobs and working and gigging and all that cool stuff. You might see 1 or 2 homeless people on the platform, or you might see 1 or 2 on the train. Keyword, or. And also 1 or 2 in one place or the other. Now, the platforms are full of homeless people, and you are guaranteed that when you get in the train, you will see at least 1 or 2 homeless people who are visibly suffering from homelessness. They can be crashed out in the corner or laid out on the 6-seater. Sometimes both. Sometimes you've got 2 of them in there laid out. Sometimes, if the weather is bad, if it's raining or extremely hot or extremely cold, you will have one of these individuals in each corner of the train. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's not say anything about the smell. Now, what are we really looking at here? A couple things. One is that the Democrats who are in charge of New York City are allowing this to continue and allowing it to get worse. The other thing we're looking at is the failure of our society to provide appropriate mental health care for people who are clearly in need of it. The other thing we're looking at is the fallout from the migrant crisis that Mayor Eric Adams provoked in New York City by saying, we're a sanctuary city. Send them all here. We got it. We're New York. We got it. We can take care of this for you. What are you talking about with New York City? Send them all here. It's almost as if the mayor of New York City was not aware that the shelter system was already full to bursting. Let's just take a look at this New York Times article for a moment, shall we? And we will get back to this poor individual in a moment. So this says, record 100,000 people in New York homeless shelters, right? An influx of migrants has contributed to the record number of people entering the New York City's shelter system. Contributed. So how many people were already in the homeless system before the migrant crisis started. How many Americans? Okay, let's just take a look at this. I'm going to consult my notes for just a second here. Okay, now, in fiscal year 2022, check this out. There were 102,656 homeless people in the New York City system. Okay, and if you want to check that number, you can check that at Basic Facts About Homelessness in New York City. I will put a link to that in the description for this video. So, 102,656. Didn't Eric Adams know about this number? Did no one tell him? Was there no way for him to find out before he said, yeah, no, send them all here. I know they're homeless, but we got it. We got it. Come on. Come on. It's us. Okay. Now, according to this same organization, right, Basic Facts About Homelessness, that in June of 2023, there were 84,526 people in the New York City shelter system. Okay? So this New York Times article says, a record of 100,000 people in New York City homeless shelters. If you go into the article, however, you find that that's not quite accurate. Because look at this. Or it is somewhat misleading. To a certain degree, it understates the problem. Because it says, New York City has passed a woeful milestone this week, and this article was published July 28th, 2023, spurred by an influx of migrants from the nation's southern border. There are now over 100,000 people in homeless shelters here. Over 100,000. So if the numbers from the Coalition for the Homeless are accurate, right, with this 84,000 or close to 85,000 homeless people in the New York City shelter system, and then here we have this figure of 50,000 migrants in the New York City shelter system. That's 135,000. That's the population of a good-sized small city of homeless in the New York City system. Does that sound workable to anybody? No, absolutely not. So let's just take a look at this article for a moment here. It says New York City passed a woeful milestone this week, spurred by an influx of migrants from the nation's southern border. That is not accurate. They are coming from the global south for the most part, but they are not coming from the nation's southern border. That would be Texas. For the first time, there are now over 100,000 people in homeless shelters here, city officials said Wednesday. So, as I said, if the numbers are to be believed, it's about 135,000. Days earlier, the city said that the number of migrants in shelters had passed 50,000, and that for the first time, they made up the majority of people in homeless shelters in the city. All right, so if that's the case, somebody's numbers are off here. I'm not sure whose, but seeing as how the New York Times is not as reliable as it once was, I am assuming that the Coalition for the Homeless numbers are accurate. But actually, it leads me to think this. Okay, hold on. So if we've got over 100,000 people in New York City shelters, where are all the Americans? Where'd they go? What happened to them? Where are they? You know where they are? They're sleeping in parks. They're sleeping on benches. They're sleeping under overpasses. They're in the subway. Let's finish this up. The city, under Mayor Eric Adams, has spent over $1 billion to house migrants. I got a problem with that. There is a profound shortage of affordable housing in New York City. And he's spending $1 billion on people who are not even American citizens, people who just got here. And there are people who spend their entire lives in New York City, retirees, people who lost their pensions in the '08 crash. And he's spending over $1 billion to house people who are not American citizens, who have not paid taxes here. I don't live in New York City, but I work there, which means that I have payroll taxes and state taxes and city taxes deducted from my money. Where is that money going? Is it going to the elderly? No. Is it going to the mentally ill? No. Is it going to homeless people? No. Is it going to other artists? No. Is it going to public schools? You know it's definitely not going there. Where's it going? To a bunch of people who strolled over the border. And I don't mean to minimize the plight of some of these individuals. They very well may be fleeing political violence or extreme social disruption, but they have not paid taxes here like the rest of us have. They have not dealt with the New York City nonsense that the rest of us have. And as far as I am concerned, the people who deserve that tax money are the people who have been here, not the people who just walked in. So there's that. Over $1 billion to house the migrants since they started arriving in large numbers in the spring of 2022, and expects to spend over $4 billion next year. Are you telling me that this man can manage to conjure $4 billion and we still have to deal with this person? Now, I know that there are Democrats who would argue that this is freedom, that you can't force this person to go into shelter or into a psychiatric facility because it would curtail their freedom. Freedom to what? Freedom to be floridly mentally ill and not able to care for yourself? Freedom to starve on the subway? Freedom to get cellulitis and have whatever other kinds of medical conditions you have spiral out of control. The freedom to ride the subway nonstop with all of your worldly possessions because you have nowhere else to go. That is the freedom that these individuals have. This is why I will not vote for the Democrats. And then the Republicans would say, well, this is this person's fault. If they would get their shit together and get a job, then, this wouldn't be happening to them. You don't need any support of the government. We need small government. And if you can't make it in the American system, to hell with you. This is what you deserve. That's why I won't vote for them either. So what we're looking at here is a complete and utter failure of governance on any level. Now, we passed this. This also used to be a fairly rare sight, depending on where you were in New York City. Now, in the late 80s, early 90s, 2000s, and 2010s, I was gigging quite a bit in various parts of New York City, but mostly on the Lower East Side. You would see this on the Lower East Side. This is during the crack and the heroin epidemic, and everything was just nonsense. It was terrible. So when you're on your way to play at CBGB's or the Continental or the Sidewalk Cafe, or what else was over there? Arlene's Grocery. When you're on your way to play at one of those esteemed establishments, you'd see this. Once you got out of that area, though, you didn't see that anymore. You really didn't. Now, this is common. I can tell you. 34th Street, between 6th and 7th Avenue, it's like you're walking through a refugee camp. And this is all over the city. Is this man free? I guess he's free to sleep in the grit, grime, and filth on the sidewalk. I guess he's free to acquire some type of hideous skin infection. I guess he's free to what exactly? How is this freedom? It's not. It is not freedom. It is an abandonment of governance. It is an attempt on the part of the Democrats who are in control of in control of New York City, to look as if they care about people from other countries. It is an attempt at woke virtue signaling that has led to this, and has led to American citizens who are homeless, who are in need of mental health services, who are in need of affordable housing, to be shoved out of the way so that Eric Adams can look good. What do you want to bet that he's going to run on this nonsense? And he's going to say, we opened our doors to, to migrants. You opened the doors, all right, but there was no house to let them into. And in opening the doors to these people, you shoved the American citizens out. It is appalling. It is utterly appalling. And you see it every day. If you are a citizen of New York City, you cannot avoid this. It doesn't matter where you live. You can live in the fancy neighborhoods. It's there. You can live in the, shall we say, more challenged areas of New York City, and it's there too. Why? Because Eric Adams wanted to virtue signal. Because that's what woke is. It's all about virtue signaling. It doesn't have anything to do with actually helping anybody out. Okay. So I am going to leave this here. Thank you for hanging out with me for the inaugural Political Living Room video, and I will see you in the next one. Have an excellent day, and I will see you in the next video.